Recording in progress.
Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome to another edition of our Across Retail Talks from Vienna. My name is Anne-Kathrin Felten. I'm the editor-in-chief of Across Magazine, and I'm very pleased that so many people all across Europe are here with us today. Our topic today is Food Anchor, the actual safe anchor for shopping centers and retail parks. This topic, as we all know, became extremely important, especially during the last 2 years. We are very happy to discuss it today with this group of top-class experts here. We have Katrin Andres from Ambers Real Estate, Markus Pingera from Supernova, and Angelus Bernreuther from Kaufland. I see the group is already ready. Klaus Striebig, as usual, will lead this discussion as an expert moderator. Please, to the audience, take part in the discussion, ask your questions. We have a Q&A function you can use. And in the next few days, we will send out a summary and a video of this discussion. And yeah, that's it now from my side. I now hand over to Klaus Striebig. Klaus, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, and welcome from my side as well. Welcome in this first Across Retail Talks in 2022, and a very, very warm welcome to Anne as our new face in that round. That's fantastic that you are with us. Yes, food-anchored parks or centers is the topic of today's discussion. The subline could be also retail parks, a new star is born. Is that really the case? A fantastic round today with us. We have Katrin Andres from Ambers Real Estate. Katrin, welcome. And would you love to give us a little insight what you are doing, what you have done, and what you will do in future?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for asking me to participate in this round today. So as you said, my name is Katrin Andres. I'm head of advisory at Ambers Real Estate. Maybe some people will ask who is Ambers Real Estate. So we have been iMall Invest Europe in the past and have rebranded ourselves in March. So it's just quite new name, and the reason behind it is we are a dedicated retail expert and retail real estate advisor. And but we think that the modern retail asset is not just about a shopping mall, and that's why we decided to rebrand ourselves to Ambers Real Estate, which is better describing what we do. So we are a boutique advisory company advising in regard to investment and asset management. We advise owners and developers of modern retail properties and mixed-use assets on their asset management strategies, on their acquisition and disposal programs in regard to transaction processes, and in regard to their strategic business planning, in regard to consultancy service, and in regard to restructuring projects. That's what we do.
Super, but you should not forget to talk about your vast experience, because you have been in the business for quite a while, of course. You have an international experience, an international view, which is also good. And I think you are one of the best, let's say, panelists for this round, because you know what's going on in this European retail real estate world. So welcome, Katrin. Thanks for the introduction.
Thank you.
We have also Angelus Bernreuther with us. Angelus Bernreuther is also very well experienced in the let's say, big anchor store industry, and he's coming from Kaufland Stiftung. And Angelus, give us a little insight what Kaufland is doing for those one who haven't heard from Kaufland before.
Thanks, Klaus, for handing over. Warm welcome also from my side. Really looking forward to that discussion. My name is Angelus Bernreuther. I'm head of investor relations with Kaufland. Kaufland is part of the Schwarz Group, which is one of the global leaders in food retailing. We currently run more than 1,350 hypermarkets all across Europe in 8 countries, with a strong focus on Germany and the CE countries. And good news for the real estate industry is we are still believing in brick and mortar stores and keep expanding.
That's a very good news, and to make it clear and right to the audience, Kaufland or Schwarz Group belongs to the top 3 or top 5 in the world, which is very important to mention. So, and we have with us Marcus Pinguera, with also a wide range of experience coming from the retail industry, if I'm right in mind, now belonging to a Supernova group, and you're doing a lot in Europe. Marcus, a little insight from your side?
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Marcus Pinguera. As Klaus mentioned, I came from the retail side originally, worked for several companies, mainly in the CE region. My last station was Deichmann for a couple of years, and 2018 I joined Supernova as a managing director. We are, let's say, the leading private real estate company with a clear hold and buy strategy, focused on high quality retail schemes, and we are also investing in retail parks, shopping malls, in mixed-use projects as well, and have an actual rental income of approximately 130 million and asset value of 1.6 billion euros. So this is our core markets. Probably to mention, our core markets are Slovenia, Croatia, Austria, and partially a little bit Germany.
So it's a one-hand service what Supernova is offering. So you're developing, you're leasing, you're operating, you're managing, and you keep it in your portfolio.
Exactly. This is our main topic. Yeah.
That's good news that there's a retailer with us who is belonging in brick and mortar stores, and one who is investing on a long-term view. And Katrin, it's your point or your challenge to keep them alive for sure. So. We have March 2022. It's now 2 years anniversary of COVID. Not the best anniversary, but let's have a start with that. After more than 24 months of living with that kind of pandemic environment, what is your most important key learning out of it? Katrin, would you love to give us a little personal view on the past 24 months?
Was it for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I wasn't quite sure. Yeah, the key learning. So I have to say it's take nothing for granted and appreciate our health, our wealth, and also our freedom. That's what I would say as a key learning.
So there's a change in the priorities maybe in life. What is going to happen, yeah. And Angelus, what was your biggest surprise during the last 24 months? What have you seen?
After the first shock we've seen 2 years ago in terms of COVID, where everything was new for us, I think one of the surprising things was when we came back the last month back to normality, that the overall landscape, retail landscape, and also trends are back to the agenda. They did not disappear. They come back with force. Look at the ESG theme, or some of them even has been accelerated, like digitalization. So when we've learned one thing, that is that we have to be flexible, and all stakeholders in the industry have to be more flexible than before COVID, I think. And that's perhaps also a good learning.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. And Marcus, have you seen any big changes in your personal life or in your business life during the past 24 months?
Yes, of course. You were faced with really several topics which you never imagined before, and you have to prepare for all eventualities, no matter how improbable they may seem. And what I'm really was not shocked, but I was surprised how massive the divide in the society was in the question if you are vaccinated or not vaccinated, and to see how quick people can be radicalized. This was something really which was for me really surprising, and mostly driven from my point of view by the social medias and fake news. Of course, we know that, but nevertheless, it was really for me the biggest surprise, how quick and how fast this happens.
Thanks very much. Let's hope for the better, and let's hope that we are not swinging back to a kind of normality, but a situation which is a little bit more, let's say, positive and not that much under pressure that we are in. So retail, and the question is what's really new in retail, what's going to happen is that we see a lot of current buzzwords in the industry. You have all heard of them, like placemaking or mixed-use projects or local supply or digitization. No presentation without digitization or ESG or sustainability or community building. And the questions of today's discussion is, could all these buzzwords be combined with food-anchored locations? How does that fit? We would love to discuss. Retail, it's always a matter of what is retail in reality. In the past was quite simple. It was a delivery of goods and services at fixed spots, maybe something that fits perfect to the food-anchored locations. Nowadays, maybe it tries to provide solutions for the daily needs and wishes, which is a bit more than just bread and fish and butter. And maybe in future, retail will connect each individual consumer, communicate on all existing channels, touch the heart of a consumer via all senses, what they may need, but not maybe know so far, whatever, whenever, and wherever. And the question will be, could it all provided by food-anchored locations or retail parks? That's our discussion of today's talk. At this point, please, if you have any questions from the audience, raise your hands or write it down in the chat that we are able to raise that questions and direct them directly to our panelists. So a very important question for our discussion is the food anchor location, the food anchored center, really a winning format? Or are they just lucky guys because of COVID? I would love to start with Angelus. Angelus, do you hear this? We have little problems with the connection.
Now it works, right?
Yes.
I'm not sure, Klaus, if winner from our point of view is the right word, because food retailing definitely has proven to be a basic necessity in that case. That's right. And in combination with a relatively high spending amount of the customer, this guarantees also a stable basic footfall for all locations that have a footfall anchor. That's for sure. And having a higher online resilience than non-food traders, this enables also supermarkets like us being a real footfall anchor for those locations. But winning format, I think it's a basic format that have shown the necessity, and in terms of online resilience, that's also a future-proof product, I guess.
But let's be frank and honest. So the gastronomy, all the restaurants have been closed. People need to eat. And of course, if there's no open restaurant, the alternative is the food anchor or the food store. So maybe you're a lucky guy, and will that be changing in the next few months when we have again an open situation for each and every offer?
Well, first of all, the COVID situation, it has been a pandemic thing, also driven by the regulations which was given by the local authorities too. So in that case, we all still see us as a partner of the whole industry, and of course of our partners in a retail park, in a shopping center. And it was for those in the food and beverage sector, the restaurants, cafes, which are also partners of ours, a very difficult situation. So we as a big restaurants, as a big entire partnership together for those blocks, for those locations. So we're really looking forward to that. Now the pandemic hopefully is over, and that we all come back to such a normality in those times. For sure, in those times where others had closed, many had to go to the food stores. That's for sure.
I would love to forward this question also to Markus before we go to Katrin. Markus, what do you think as an investor? Is it a kind of winning format at the moment, or is it for long-term view? What do you think?
No, I think it's for sure a winning format, and this will not change in the future. So what we see also in our portfolio, I mean, in the past, probably it was not seen in this in such a way, but it's not only the food retailer. Also, if you're talking about the DIYs, it was the same story more or less, because we have a lot of DIYs also in our portfolio. So all these concepts which are really linked with the pandemic, that the people stay at home, that they have to eat, they have to buy food. The people invested a lot of money in their housing and reconstruction, and this is for sure something which will stay for a longer time. So for me, it's really the most important brick of a project, especially in the retail parks. I mean, if you have more or less no chance to lease out a retail park without any proper food retailer. So this is the fact. So it's the most important brick at the moment, for sure. And this will not change.
Do we have a retail park without a food anchor?
We have one, but the food anchor is right beside. So as an own development, but a pure retail park without food anchor, no, we don't have.
So the first,
I think we have 30 of them or 32. We have no one without food retailer. Yeah.
So the very first and most important, let's say, outcome is a retail park or location like this without a food anchor does not really work.
It does not really work, and it's not leasable because all of the retailers are asking for the food retailer. It's more or less an anchor tenant, which is also linked with the contract. This is it. So if we're losing, we know, everyone knows that, if you're losing the food retailer, we are in a situation which ends up in a real problem, because without food retailer, immediately all the tenants will stay in front of the door.
Interesting that you mentioned this kind of co-tenancy clause already.
Yeah, it's not a secret.
Maybe we can go deeper into it in the next minute.
I know it as a retailer, and I know it now as a developer.
Because my next question would be: is there any advantages or disadvantages? And you may have answered already a little bit. But Katrin, you are between these worlds. You are advising. So on the one side, retailers I know, as well as investors or operators. What's your point of view concerning food anchored locations as a winning format? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that food anchored formats have already before the pandemic been a successful thing. So you already mentioned I was working for Nuveen for more than 9 years before I changed my job to Embus Real Estate. And so at Nuveen, we had a lot of special funds for retail parks, all food anchored, and this was a quite successful thing. And so the advantage of these food anchored assets is that you have an anchor tenant with a long lease term and a steady income. So that's the big advantage. And also, if you have a food anchor in a shopping center, this is an advantage because of the lease term and also the stability of the cash flow. And also, if you think about financing such an asset or something like that. And however, but we also see a lot of shopping centers and retail assets, or let's say shopping centers, which don't have a food anchor, and they are also very good. So there are a lot of centers with a good performance, with the right tenant mix, good location at a transport hub, for example. This is also working. So I think it's a very good addition to have a food anchor. And in a shopping center and in a retail park, it's a necessity. But yeah, it's depending.
Does a shopping mall or a shopping center, a smaller or bigger one, really need a food anchor?
That's what I say. It's not necessary. If you have a good tenant lineup and mixed use components, if you sit at a transport hub. So we know a lot of centers which are performing very good with a lot of frequency, also without food anchor.
And with let's say, if you look back 24 months in pandemic times, you know, we have these so-called, let's say, system relevant offers, which is something that has to be concerned during pandemic times. Wasn't it necessary to have, I would say, short-term goods as an offer in a mall or in a retail asset?
Yeah, so during the pandemic, this was really the need to keep on performing and opening, so to have that you have a stable income. That's what I mean. So if you have a food anchor in your asset, and in no matter whether it's a shopping center or a retail park, that's a very good thing, because you have a stable, secure income stream over a long period of time, and you don't have that volatility in rents. So it's a really stable thing, and a good basis to have an asset. However, I wouldn't say it the other way around. If you have an asset without a food anchor, that this is a bad asset. So this is nothing I would agree on. So it depends.
Very good. So let's go deeper into details when we talk about, let's say, sizing or quality of offer or the offer itself. Markus, you would love to add something?
Yeah, I just want to mention in Romania, it was really proved by figures, because in Romania there was the situation that all the food anchors without external entrance from outside had to close. It was not allowed to operate, the vaccinated and unvaccinated people are meeting each other in the mall. So we have to close the food retailers, Carrefour and Cora in our projects for a certain period of time. And it was really a drop of frequency and also turnovers of the other tenants around of 20 to 35%. So it's the daily traffic what we are losing. And the more in the outskirts, in the inner city locations, probably it's not that necessary. But the more in the outskirts, the more on the green field, the more important is it to have a food retailer in the project. So this is my experience in this question.
Angelus, this is a fantastic starting point for a discussion. Or if you start, let's say, to find new location, if everybody is requesting food anchored locations or food stores, but do you need let's say, a retail environment or a retail park or a shopping mall? Do you love to be in that environment, or could you have a, let's say, single standing unique, preferably on your agenda? What's your point of view?
Klaus, depends. Well, from the general point of view, we as a food operator are very flexible. Of course, we can do freestanding hypermarkets and operate it on our own, but we also love locations where big retail parks or shopping centers also gain more catchment area. So we're very flexible in doing those things. I think we have to think about one thing. I think food retail now won't save entire big locations alone. So it's we can contribute, as Catherine said, to a new tenant mix. And that wasn't often possible in the past. And now it's all about new positioning of a shopping center, new positioning of a retail park by strengthening the food and the food retailer. So if the classical tenant mix is given, like Catherine said, and still functions, it's no doubt that the shopping center will survive in that case. But we can also, by contributing a big footfall anchor with food, you can also mutually strengthen the catchment area. And that's where we are also looking for right now, because big retail parks, shopping centers, even inner city, they are all locations that are known by the customer and are now in need for revitalization, and there can food contribute a major role to revitalize it.
Totally understand it, but it looks like a little bit of misbalance. So on the one hand, we have operators and developers like Markus or Supernova who say, okay, a retail park or retail asset without food anchor is needed. On the other side, we have the operator, the food store operator, who said, okay, I can have my single standing unit. It sounds like a little bit, let's say, a difficult situation, that there's on the one hand a must-have, on the other side maybe. Does that I would say steer or direct the discussion or the negotiation a little bit into a certain direction? Angelus?
No, not at all. But it really depends from the location. When we are looking about retail parks, we are all aware that this format, also with the big boxes, with the non-food big boxes markets, functions very well. So it's about who has access to the plot, what we can do together, how's the total tenant mix, how we can achieve a mutually building permit, and how to be a big player in the catchment area. In terms of classical shopping center, Klaus, you're right, because it's more complicated. Normally, you don't have new planning, so you have existing assets. You have to deal with the ceiling height. You have to deal with the local situation. And there you have to see that food operators have other requirements than non-food retailers have. It has something to do with access, for example, to the parking facilities, perhaps a single entrance for the food retailer and operator as its own, because there are sometimes different customers coming to the shopping center. But in general, it's not a maybe, but it's a finding the best solution for the location.
Thanks very much. I would love to forward this to Markus, because I saw a smile on his face and maybe he has something to add.
Yeah, of course. I mean, another advantage of the retail park, of course, because it's in kind of a hybrid. It's the best solution for the food retailer because he has more or less his standalone solution. And with the retail parks, you have still the frequency and you can participate on the frequency of the food retailer. I agree with Angelus. Of course, in the shopping malls, it's not that easy. And of course, the problem is also then the rent. It's the question of the fit out, the costs. We know also that the costs in respect of energy and the costs in the construction costs are rising up every month on a daily basis, more or less, at the moment. And of course, it was in the past, it was really on the edge for some of the retailers. And now for the future, it seems that really it would be really very, very hard to calculate also this amount of fit out and contributions, what we are dealing with. And I think this is also a very, very important discussion between the food retailers, if they are also included in a shopping mall, if you are able to calculate the project at the end of the day. And but nevertheless, of course, as I mentioned before, it's a kind of point of no return, because you need a food retailer at the end of the day. What we see is that the sizes are a little bit probably the key for the future. So to reduce the classical food retailers in the shopping malls, like the hypermarkets, which had formats in Romania or also in Hungary, what we know about, with 16,000 square meters. I think these concepts are not longer a concept which is really profitable on a long run. So reduce the spaces, reduce the construction costs, and then it might be a good way to implement food retailers in a property.
Katrin, that should be, I would say, a working field for you to, let's say, to rebalance the discussion where we are in. What is your advice how to cope with the situation? On the one hand, the big investment, on the other side, the need to have a food anchor in your retail assets with maybe less rent, what Markus has mentioned. What is there a solution from your point of view?
So I think in general, the both business partners, they have to find an economic balance to meet at an economic balance, because otherwise projects might not happen. So it's correct that costs are rising, but also on the other hand, if you have a good location and you really have potential in the catchment area, then also my experience is that the potential food anchors will be interested, and one can find a solution to create a project. And maybe also one other thought about what has been said already. For example, if we are thinking about repurposing department stores, this is a quite popular topic at the moment because we have a lot of department stores which have to be repurposed, and there is a situation that you have a building which has been a single tenant building, and then you have to find a solution where you have several formats, including a food retailer and maybe textile, and also other use components like hotel use, fitness club, office, residential. And then you have the situation that you really have to think about the delivery area. This is in a lot of cases is that really a point where you have to find solutions. And I think it's quite important that all parties who want to partner up in a project, that they try together to find solutions to make projects come in reality.
But would you agree on the situation that we have a kind of, let's say, pressure? Because it's not a secret that a huge, big food anchor is not able to pay a huge amount of rent. Lots of things should be discussed because there's this little margin and maybe depends on the sales numbers, blah, blah. There's a lot of things. And what could, let's say, lead to the situation that all the other tenants in the retail asset have to pay a little bit more, that it's then rebalanced because of rising construction costs? Or on the other side, maybe you have to optimize the organization, the operation, all the other, let's say, details that has to be managed. Is that the case, Katrin?
That's a good question, but I think in general, if you have a multi-tenant assets, then the tenants, they will profiting from each other. So I think if you have, let's say, a vacancy in a shopping center, and I think all other tenants would also prefer to have a food anchor, even if they pay a lower rent, than to have a vacancy at the center. So that's why I think it's good in a multi-tenant asset that you have as less vacancy as possible, and that you find a good balance between the offer and the mix you have in the center. And as I said, I think a food anchor, if it's possible to integrate one in a center, that it's very good. It's an advantage, but it's not a must-have to be successful asset. That was my position before. Yeah.
Thanks for that. All these assets and all these retail parks, all these locations are made for the people, for the consumers. Maybe we should talk also about them, which is very important. So people are more and more and better informed, and they behave differently, not only because of COVID, but also because of, let's say, development. They shop more self-conscious, and they buy differently. And so we are seeing and are facing a lot of changes, especially in consumer behavior. Angelus, what do you think has to be changed in the offer of a food anchor to, let's say, follow these trends? And what has to be done in the retail industry themselves to manage it successfully? What is the next thing we will see in the new Kaufland stores?
The thing is, Klaus, and that's very interesting. As I said, we believe in physical retail, but we don't neglect the fact of digitalization. That would be a fourth. The thing is, in food, we're relatively safe right now. That's right, because customer spending is still high. We spend more half of our disposable income for food, and that brings the basic footfall. On the other hand, it's more difficult to sell food online. It's possible, but in big countries like Germany, perhaps like Romania, like Poland, it's logistically expensive and difficult to do it nationwide. So if we agree that the footfall will stay predominantly in brick and mortar stores, I would agree for the next years, definitely. But thing is, what I say, you can't neglect the online trend. So what are we doing? We try to combine things. So first of all, I think digitalization is more than an online channel. It's more than e-commerce. It's more than the sales channel in that case. It's how we interact with the customer and bring those worlds together, online and offline, that will be the thing of the future also for us. I give you two examples. First example is almost 1 year ago, we integrated the former Real.de platform and converted it into Kaufland.de. This is one of the most successful trading platforms now in Germany, with more than 25 million items in stock together with our traders. But that's not a food delivery service. It's only for non-food. But of course, it's our touch point with the customer online and offline, because they use our apps, they use our homepage, they go to our physical stores, and we can combine the online offer, the offline offer food and the food experience with the online offer in the non-food sector with a very much more range. And this is also an add to what Marcus said. Therefore, we strengthen in our brick and mortar stores the food competence. 90% of our sales area, which begin from 2,500 square meters of sales area, is food and near food. And we all get rid of the non-food sector, like Marcus said. It's simply too much in that retail area. Second example is we launched our Kaufland loyalty card, the Kaufland card. And that's also a very effective thing to bring these two worlds together. Of course, our customer values the promotion he has, the additional services he has with this card. But for us, it's always a clear advantage to combining those two words, because the customer simply values that in terms of loyalty and also all-encompassing experience when it comes up to the trademark Kaufland. And that definitely we'll see. The combination online offline is not only the sales channel, can be the sales channel, but we can see this interaction, this whole interaction in a digital way. That's the future.
Thanks for that, Marcus. If you talk about, let's say, the changes in the consumer behavior, and let lead at the very end to a change in the request of sales areas, of sizes. You mentioned already that hypermarkets sized 15,000 square meters are not longer successful in the future, which I totally agree. You are a developer, you are an operator and a long-term hold. How flexible have you to react in the near future concerning sizes, shapes, layouts, offers, and etc.? What's your point of view on that?
Yeah, I think this is the most important thing for the future. This is, Klaus, this is something what we're really working very hard on that to have a higher flexibility to create spaces, to create bigger, smaller spaces, to also to serve for new concepts as soon as possible, proper locations. As we know, of course, the pandemic was also a trigger for a lot of insolvencies in the business, and you have to prepare that this is for me only the start for a few of them. So it's very, very important to have the flexibility in this topic. And especially the question to reduce the costs for the tenants inside our malls. And the tenants, if we talk about our customers, we have our tenants on one hand, and we have, of course, our customers in the mall. Yeah, so we have to serve both of them. We have to serve the best surrounding for the tenants and also for the customers. And this is also linked with the tenant mix. And to have the best tenant mix, I think, is the most important part. I agree completely that digitalization is a very important thing, but this is my opinion. This is really on the tenants, more on the tenants. Of course, what Angelus mentioned is that very successful is also our gift card, the loyalty program in our malls. So you're able to buy with the gift cards in Slovenia in every property, independent if it's a shopping mall or retail park. And this is something which is really an advantage for our customers. These are the most important things. But I mean, in a retail park is convenience buying. And this shows also during the whole pandemic that this was the most resistant concept of all the concepts. And especially for the background of the higher costs of the energy costs, the tenants have a lot of pressure in purchasing, in the logistics at the moment. So it's a question of time that we are ending up anyway in a discussion regarding the costs, and we should really keep this in our focus. This is I think this is the most important thing for the future for us.
So higher sensibility. Funny-wise, you mentioned also a gift card. So already we have two. We have the gift and loyalty card from Kaufland, and the one from Supernova. I understood, right? So maybe there's a third one from a DIY, and maybe we have a huge wallet filled up with loyalty cards. Maybe there's a chance to combine each and everything and finding out whether there's something we could do together. You mentioned the flexibility. Do we need, Markus, long-term leases?
The banks need it. This and this is also something what we should mention, because if we are in discussion with for financing some projects, some new projects, it's always one of the first questions: who is the food retailer? This is the truth. And also, it's a few months ago or 2 years ago, when we are discussing with the advisors for the valuations, it was always a little bit the discussion if it's not too risky to have 60 OBs in our portfolio and 30 Interspar. If what happens if, yes, since 2 years we don't have this discussion anymore. So it's always a change of the situation, and to be honest, it's really important to have it, because the lease term is of course very important, but you are not able to get more than 5 years, to be honest. Probably from a food retailer you got a little bit more, but but to get 5 years without any break option is really at the moment the ceiling, and even less. And of course, this is also a big problem because you have to invest. You have also to buy pay contributions. We know that as well. And then, of course, with 3 years and break option, it's a little bit problematic. Yeah, and it's not only the food retailer who is asking for that and who is paying a less rent. There are some others as well. Bigger.
So lots of things to be discussed and to be observed and to be managed. Kathleen, I think that's your majority of discussion points with the banks or with the investors between the worlds. What's your point of view? Long-term lease, a better organization, better operation? What is the solution for the future from your point of view?
I think it will be a mix of it. So as it has been said already, so the good thing about the food anchor is that it brings along lease lengths, and it's absolutely right what Markus said. It's at the current market, it's quite hard to get longer leases than 5 years from non-food retailers, and that's why it's good to have both food and non-food retailers to get the most stability in the asset as possible. On the other hand, it also is true that there is a changing and very dynamic market, and it's also good for a landlord to be flexible and to react on trends and to be able to maybe change the mix of use concepts for an asset. And if you then have tenants with a lot of extension options only to be exercised by a tenant, that's also not good for a landlord, because then you're not flexible to change something in your assets. So it always has both sides. And to come back to the financing side, so that's absolutely an issue. However, the reality is that as this has been said, so lease lengths of more than 5 years from textile retailers, that is not happening at the moment.
It sounds like a mess. So at the moment we have short lease lengths, which is on the one hand good because of flexibility. On the other side, we have rising costs. If you reconstruct, if you remanage the plots, it's always expensive. So on the other side, we have a pressure on the rents. So it sounds like a challenge. Am I right, Katrin?
Yeah, so it's a challenge, and I think it's you need really specialist knowledge and really good partners to collaborate and to find the right solutions for each individual asset. So you have to look at each asset and analyze the asset and the catchment and the surrounding, and to think about what's the best to do with this asset, because also repurposing retail spaces into other use types like office or residential, this is not be an economic feasible solution in every location. So it works in the top 10 cities, let's say like that, where you get also very good office and residential rents. But if you're in a smaller town, then that's not always the solution.
So still the case that we are not sitting back, laying back, relaxing and using our rocket chair. So it's still the case that we have also in food anchored locations or retail parks a lot of things to do and to manage.
Yeah.
The good thing is we have some questions from the audience, and I would love to raise some. So there's a question from Robert. Dear speakers, I read it. I would like to know your view on what is the minimum GLA for a food anchor. It is something you all three could answer. Does a supermarket size 1,000 to 2,000 square meters count as an anchor already? And what is your point of 2 anchors within one park? I love this question. Angelus, would you love to start?
Yes, of course. I can give you an answer from our point of view. We start our footfall anchors as from 2,500 square meters of the advantage of choice into our sales area. Below that area, we think it's not possible to show the variety of products we need to be the anchor for food. And that's at average with us about 30,000 items in stock. So from our perspective, 2,500 square meters of sales area up is the minimum space where we can attract people for a larger catchment area for 35,000 inhabitants at minimum, up to 50 to 60,000. And we feel very familiar with formats around 3,000 to 4,000 square meters of sales area. We can go up to 5,000 if needed, but then it's a very matter of location if that's really suitable for the location from our point of view, but also from the point of view of the retail park. So it depends on the catchment area. But generally speaking, you need a big sales area when you want to have a big footfall anchor. Yes.
And what about competition? If there, maybe we can ask Markus when he is leasing out a second food anchor into his mall. What does Kaufland think about that?
For sure, this is definitely no discussion. You are never ever able to discuss this to have a second food anchor in a mall. This is I don't know, but for us it's in the discussions is always there's always a competition clause in the contracts, and the point is, of course, also you should not forget that especially in the food business, the density in the market is extremely high. So nearly on each corner there is food anchor, or if you see the expansion of Kaufland or also of Lidl to really close the markets with their stores. Of course, their own cannibalization is a topic at the end of the day, so they protect their business as well. And so from my point of view, it's impossible to negotiate a second food anchor. The same story to negotiate a second electronic retailer. So everyone is trying to catch this catchment area for his business, and not to divide the turnovers. So impossible from my point of view.
Okay, that was the defensive part, but Katrin has a different point of view, maybe.
Yeah, I think what we see from investors' appetite is that the perfect combination is to have a larger, let's say a Kaufland, and together with a discounter like an Aldi, for example, if you then also have a drugstore with it, and then some other non-food retailers. So that's for a retail park the most sought after combination where you get the highest prices and highest multiples on.
But then, Katrin, sorry, but then you have also to take in account that especially the costs. You have to keep cost in your focus, because we know that the food to build a food retailer is really expensive, also from the contribution point of view, and this is in the calculation most probably the end of the tunnel, because you're not able to calculate this with two food retailers. One food retailer is very, very difficult. To have two of them, I really don't know if we would be able to do that.
Yeah. So
especially with the prices now on the market. So this is really very, very, very hard.
Yeah. So
and you have to pay also for the other one. Sorry. Yeah.
It's mainly my experience from the German market, where you see that a lot. And also, as I said, it's a very sought after investment product. And also, we are now having a situation that the hypermarket chain Real is disappearing. And so these have been, I think, 280 stores in Germany. And a lot of these stores are going to Kaufland and the other competitors. And the situation is that the Real leases or spaces, they have been much larger than the new spaces which will be taken from Kaufland or Edeka. So they are more around about, let's say, 5,000 square meters, and the Real markets have been 7 or 10 or 15,000 square meters. And then you have to find also tenants for the remaining spaces. And there, in a lot of cases, you have the situation that you have Kaufland, Edeka together then with a discounter and drugstore and retailers like that.
And maybe I add something, because not always this is the discussion about the sizing, but maybe we should also consider the point from the customer side, because there are people who love to shop in a huge hypermarket or in a huge food anchor store, and some hate it and would prefer in a smaller size store. Maybe it's the matter how to complete the branch and tenant mix properly. So if there is a discount on the one hand, a supermarket on the other side, and a hyper on the third side, could be a discussion. But anyway, I think it depends and matters where we are. And of course, there's always a discussion about, let's say, the co-tenancy clauses or competition clauses or the market power. Angelus, I see a little smile on your face. What you would love to add?
Well, I just want to add, because it's the perspective of an owner, of the advisor. Just from our perspective side, I think we don't fear competition. But what you mentioned, Klaus, from the point of view of the customer, what brings more value into a retail asset, and that's why I'm with Marcus at one point and Katrin at the other, bringing two, let's say, similar footfall anchors to one asset does not make sense, because it does not make sense from the customer point of view. Perhaps bringing more differentiated, even food retailers, drugstores, to one big retail asset, one big retail park, one big shopping center, that makes sense from the point of view of variety, from the point of view of choice, and also shopping experience for the customer. And of course, we as a big footfall anchor, big supermarket, we understand ourselves as the footfall machine in front of it.
Super. There's another question, because time is running, is unbelievable today. The question was, what is your experience regarding quality of food retail? Do you see differences or influence on footfall when the offer of the food retailer is not in line with expectation of customers? Very good question. For example, not focused on food, having too much other products like cheap electronic devices, whatever it is, not directed to Kaufland, but maybe to all the other ones. But let's discuss the offer and the quality which is needed. Marcus, what is your point of view? Short answer, please.
This is really a good question.
What's more important, low prices, high quality food,
It depends on the concept. I mean, there are anyway. The point is that there is no clear border between the discounters and the food retailers, because discounters like Lidl, like Aldi, or also Penny, and they have, every one of them have fresh food, fresh meat, has bread, fresh bread. So they are moving always closer to their competitors. So I think, to be honest, it's a question of the concept. Yeah, probably in a retail park, clear discounter might be the better solution for fast shopping, and in a high quality mall, yeah, I think probably a Kaufland might be not the right decision there. Yeah, so also from the whole assortment. So I agree. It depends on the concept, completely on the concept, what we should put in. So this is the answer on that.
And maybe where you are, Katrin, your point of view.
Yeah, I agree. And also maybe coming back to Real as an example, there you have seen that if the operator is not really in line with the market requirements and not working on the concept and improving the concept steadily, then you will see that also the customers will see that if the products are not in the store anymore, and you come and you don't get what you need, then the customers will not come again. So I think it's quite important that you have a good operator who fits to the catchment and the asset. So that's very important, and it's important to always try to adapt, adopt, and improve what you offer and what your concept is.
Thanks very much. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming closer to the end, and we are close before 5 o'clock, and we have a last round, and I would love to ask you all the last question, asking for a short answer. Angelus, if you might advise the retail real estate industry in general, what should be your top 3 recommendations to cope and manage this future? Short answer, 3 ideas, 3 recommendations, please. Please unmute, Angelus, and restart, please.
Sorry, I try once again. So
yeah,
first, I would say look carefully who will be the footfall anchor for the future, definitely for your asset, and begin early with the plannings and discuss it early with your tenants, because sometimes changes are needed. Placemaking for me, secondly, is more than shopping. So it's more than ever about experience. Why people come to a location, especially when bigger assets are coming to account, like big retail parks, shopping center. And third, of course, while we are very convinced that food retail will play a major role for all locations, happy to be your footfall anchor too.
Thanks for that. Markus, 3 recommendations, very short answer, please.
I have only one, really one, and I think this is covering all 3, because we as a developer, I think that in the future the developer, the landlord, the owners have to work much closer with the tenants together, and to be really open also with the costs and transparent. Because otherwise the cost pressure on both sides will be so high that it will be very hard in the future to be successful.
Sounds like a collaborative way of solution.
Yes, it has to be. I think the problem is that most of the tenants are thinking that especially the service charges, you know, that it was the reality that you are getting money out of the service charges, and this will end for sure.
Love that way to manage the things together in a kind of partnership model. Katrin, your 3 recommendations, please.
Yes, so one is also the collaboration thing. I think that was also one learning from the pandemic, where we had to collaborate more from a landlord side, also tenant side, but I would extend that also to lenders, municipalities. So we are all sitting in one boat, and I think everybody wants to go shopping in brick and mortar retail. So everybody wants that this will be still the case in future, and that's why we need more collaboration there. Then my second one would be don't be afraid, be creative, be smart. And the third one would be, I think for this dynamic times where a lot of transformation is needed, you need really expert knowledge and to create places which are relevant. And it's quite important. It's also about collaboration again, that you partner with competent and experienced sector specialists. And that includes, I think, all involved parties, landlords, developers, asset managers, property and center managers. So all includes all involved parties. It's about collaboration again, but I think sector knowledge is needed because there's a lot to do, and we just need to do it.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much to all of you to discuss with us this point. Funny-wise, we have much more discussion points, but unfortunately time is running. Maybe there's a follow-up because it's too interesting and too exciting not to go deeper into details. Many things to do. It's not an easy going. Food anchored stores and locations are not just, let's say, top-notch priority one solution. It's still complex and it's complicated. I am looking forward to the proper future for that locations, to locations which fit to the customer needs. Thanks again. Hope to see you healthy and successful in the near future. And I hand back to Anne for the last words before we end this session.
Yeah, many thanks also from my side for this extremely informative discussion. Obviously, we picked the right topic. Time was really running, and we got a lot of inputs for our future editorial work. So as mentioned at the beginning, we will send out a summary within the next few days. And also from my side, thanks to the panelists. Thanks you all for watching, and see you soon at the next Across Retail Talk. Bye from Vienna.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Ciao. Stay safe as well. Bye.